Minute 64. I always thought urban legends were just that, stories to scare us and make us lose sleep for no reason. As a biology student, I got used to looking for rational explanations for everything, even when something made me uneasy. But what happened to my friends and me that semester is still the only thing I haven't been able to explain. It all started one Friday afternoon after a field practice. We had gathered in the faculty cafeteria to rest before heading home. Miguel, as usual, brought up a strange topic. "Have you ever heard of the night call syndrome?" he asked, absent-mindedly stirring his coffee. Laura snorted, skeptical. "Let me guess, a creepypasta." "Kind of," Miguel said with a smile. "They say some people get a call at 3:33 a.m. The number doesn't show up on the screen, just unknown. If you answer, at first you just hear noise, like someone breathing on the other side, but if you stay on the line long enough, you hear your own voice." A chill ran down my spine. Alejandra, who had been distracted with her phone until that moment, looked up. "And what's that voice supposed to say?" she asked. Miguel put his cup down and leaned toward us. "They say it tells you the exact time you're going to die." Daniel burst out laughing. "How convenient. A death call that only happens at 3:33. Why not at 4:44 or something more dramatic?" We laughed because that made sense. It was an absurd story, something told to make us uneasy, but nothing more. "Come on, genetics class is about to start, and I don't want Camillo to give us that hawk stare for walking in late," I said, annoyed. "Hurry up, I can't miss genetics. I refuse to see that class with that guy again," Miguel said, half worried, half annoyed. We really hated the genetics class. It wasn't the subject itself, it was Camillo. He was the professor in charge, and he didn't make things easy or comfortable for us. We grabbed our things and headed to class, hoping to understand at least something of what that teacher said. In the following days, the conversation about the night call was forgotten. We had exams coming up, lab practices, and an ecology report that was driving us crazy. But then, 5 nights after that conversation, something happened. It was almost 4 in the morning when my phone vibrated on the nightstand. I woke up startled and, still groggy, squinted at the screen. It was a message from Alejandra. "Are you awake?" I frowned. It wasn't unusual for Alejandra to stay up late, but she never texted me at this hour. I replied with a simple, "What's up?" Almost immediately, the 3 dots appeared, indicating she was typing. "They called me." I felt a void in my stomach. "Who?" I typed with trembling fingers. "I don't know, no number showed up. It just said unknown." I stared at the screen, waiting for more, but Alejandra stopped typing. The silence of the night became heavy, like the room had shrunk around me. "Did you answer?" I finally wrote. A few eternal seconds passed before her response came. "Yes," the air caught in my throat. "And what did you hear?" The 3 dots appeared again, but this time they took longer. When her response finally arrived, it gave me chills. My voice. It said my name, and then it told me an exact time. My heart started pounding. I sat up abruptly, turned on the light, and dialed her number. It rang 3 times before she answered. "Ale, tell me this is a joke," I whispered. There was a brief silence before she spoke. She sounded scared. "I'm not joking. They told me a date and time, Thursday at 3:33 a.m., and it was my voice, my own voice." My skin crawled. Thursday was only 2 days away. I stayed silent, the phone pressed to my ear. I wanted to say something, anything that would calm Alejandra, but I couldn't find the words. Her breathing was shallow, as if she was on the verge of a panic attack. "Ale, this has to be a joke," I finally said, trying to sound firm. "That's what I thought," her voice trembled. "I want to think someone's messing with me, but..." I felt something. It wasn't just a call, it wasn't static noise, it was my voice. And it sounded so sure when it said the time. I ran a hand over my face, trying to shake off the numbness of the early morning. "It has to be Miguel," I blurted. "He was the one who told us that story. He's probably messing with us." Alejandra took a moment to respond. "Yeah, I guess so," she said, but she didn't sound convinced. "Think about it," I insisted. "In all those stories, there's a trigger, something people do to activate the curse or whatever. In creepypastas, there's always a ritual, a cursed website, a mirror at midnight, touching a forbidden object, selling your soul to the devil, something. But we didn't do anything." A silence settled over the line. "Right?" I asked, suddenly unsure. Alejandra didn't respond immediately. I shuddered. For a moment, I imagined both of us mentally reviewing the past few days, trying to find a moment where we'd done something out of the ordinary, something that could have triggered this. But there was nothing. At least, nothing we remembered. "We need to talk to Miguel," I said finally. "If this is a joke, he'll confess." "Yeah," Alejandra whispered. "Try to sleep, okay? We'll clear this up tomorrow. Well, later, when we meet at university." "I don't think I can." I didn't know how to respond. We stayed on the line a few more seconds before finally hanging up. I lay back down, staring at the ceiling. I tried to convince myself it was all nonsense, but the skin on my arms was still crawling. I couldn't stop thinking about the time. Thursday, 3:33 a.m. It was stupid, but I couldn't help but check my phone screen. 3:57 a.m. I swallowed and turned off the light. That night, I couldn't sleep, drifting into what seemed like deep sleep, only to wake up suddenly. I checked my phone again. 4:38 a.m. I'd be wasting my time if I tried to sleep. I had to leave now if I wanted to make it to the 7:00 a.m. class. I'd have to try to sleep a little on the bus. That morning, we showed up with the faces of the sleepless. Alejandra looked pale, with furrowed brows, but didn't say anything when she saw me. We just walked together to the faculty, in silence. We found Miguel in the courtyard, laughing with Daniel and Laura, like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just played a sick prank on us. I crossed my arms and stood in front of him. "Very funny, Miguel," I said, without even greeting him. He looked up, confused. "Huh. Good morning, how are you?" "I'm good, thanks for asking," he said in an ironic and playful tone. Alejandra didn't say anything, she just stayed a few steps behind me, lips tight. "The call," I said. "You can stop the show now." Miguel blinked. "What call?" I frowned. "Come on, don't play dumb. The 3:33 call, the creepypasta you told us." Alejandra got it last night. Laura and Daniel exchanged glances. Miguel, on the other hand, stood still. "What?" His tone didn't sound like fake surprise. I didn't like that. "If this is a joke, you can stop now, because it's not funny," I warned. "I'm not joking," he said quietly. "I have no idea what you're talking about." My stomach twisted. Alejandra tensed beside me. "What do you mean, no idea? You told us the story," Alejandra whispered. "Yeah, but..." Miguel scratched his neck, uneasy. "I just heard it from a cousin. I never said it was real." An uncomfortable silence settled between us. "Okay, calm down," Daniel said, raising his hands. "If Miguel didn't do it, then someone's messing with you. Couldn't it just be some random guy with too much free time?" "How can it be random if the voice I heard was mine?" Alejandra snapped. We all fell silent. Miguel rubbed his hands together nervously. "Look, if this is real," he said quietly, "the story I heard said something else." Alejandra and I looked at him tense. "If you get the call and answer, there's no way to avoid it." The air seemed to thicken. "That's stupid," I said, trying to laugh, but my voice sounded hollow. "That's what the story said," Miguel insisted, looking at us seriously. "And there's more." We waited. "If Alejandra answered, she won't be the only one to get the call." A chill ran down my spine. I slowly turned to Alejandra, but she was already looking at me, wide-eyed. Daniel broke the silence with a nervous laugh. "Well, then it's easy. No one answers calls from unknown, and that's it." "And if you don't have a choice?" Alejandra asked, in a whisper. I didn't understand what she meant until my phone vibrated in my pocket. I felt a cold jolt in my chest. I pulled the phone out with trembling fingers. On the screen, there was no number, just one word: unknown. The phone kept vibrating in my hand. Fear gripped my chest, freezing my fingers. "Don't answer," Alejandra whispered, wide-eyed. Laura and Daniel looked at us, frowning, waiting for me to do something. Miguel, however, looked too serious, as if he already knew what was going to happen. I swallowed. It was just a call, nothing more. If I didn't answer, I'd just be feeding the irrational fear that Miguel had planted with his stupid story. I had to show Alejandra nothing was going to happen, but my hands trembled. The buzzing of the phone seemed to reverberate in my bones. "Don't do it," Alejandra insisted, grabbing my arm. I swallowed, and I answered. "Hello?" Nothing. White noise. A soft, intermittent sound, like someone breathing on the other side of the line. A chill ran down my spine. I looked at my friends, wide-eyed. Miguel watched me tense, as if waiting for the worst. Laura and Daniel stared at me, holding their breath. Alejandra shook her head, terrified. I wanted to hang up too. I needed to. I moved my finger toward the screen. And then a familiar voice broke the silence. "Hello." "Sweetheart," I felt deflated. It was my mom. I put a hand to my chest, releasing the air I hadn't realized I'd been holding. "Mom," my voice came out shaky. "What's going on?" "Nothing, honey. You left your phone on the table, and I noticed when I got to the office. I'm calling you from here. Everything okay?" I couldn't believe it. I turned to Alejandra and the others with a trembling smile. I sighed, feeling ridiculous for being so scared. "Yes, Mom, I'm fine." "Thank you. Well, see you at home. Don't forget to buy what I asked for." "Yeah, okay." I hung up and let my arm drop, suddenly feeling exhausted. I turned to my friends. It was my mom. Alejandra's shoulders slumped. Daniel and Laura exchanged glances and laughed in relief. "I knew it," Daniel said, shaking his head. "We're overthinking this." Alejandra still looked tense, but she let out a sigh. "God, I swear I thought that." "That what?" I interrupted, smiling. "That a curse fell on us just because Miguel told us an internet story?" Alejandra didn't answer. Miguel, however, was still staring at me, frowning. "What's going on?" I asked. He took a while to respond. "Did your mom call you from her office?" "Yeah, why?" Miguel squinted. "Then why did it say unknown on the screen?" The relief evaporated in my chest. I froze. "What?" I looked at the phone screen. The call wasn't in the history. The fear hit me again, hard. Alejandra put a hand over her mouth. Daniel and Laura stopped smiling. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Because the last thing my mom said before hanging up was that I had forgotten my phone at home, but it was in my hand. The silence grew thick. No one spoke. I looked at my phone screen, my fingers stiff around it. It wasn't in the call history. There was no record of me answering. And my mom's voice, I swallowed. I heard her. I'm sure she said I left the phone at home. Alejandra shifted uncomfortably beside me, crossing her arms over her chest. "But you have it in your hand." My stomach churned. "Maybe you just misunderstood," Daniel interjected, with his logical tone, as if he were explaining a simple math problem. "You said you were nervous, and you were. Your mom probably said she left the phone on the table. That she left it at home, not your phone." I stared at him. "You think I imagined it?" "I'm not saying you imagined it, just that you interpreted it wrong. It's normal." Daniel waved his hand. "The brain tends to fill in information when it's in an anxious state. Sometimes we hear what we're afraid to hear." Alejandra nodded slowly, as if trying to convince herself he was right. Laura, on the other hand, still had her lips pursed. "But the call history," she murmured. "That is strange," Daniel admitted, "but there are logical explanations. It could have been a glitch, or the number was hidden. There are apps that allow that." "And the white noise," Alejandra interrupted. Daniel shrugged. "Bad signal. My point is, if your mom called, that's the important part. All the rest are details that were exaggerated because we were scared." I crossed my arms. I wanted to believe him. I wanted him to be right, but something in my stomach wouldn't let go. Miguel, who had been quiet up until now, rubbed his chin. "Maybe it's just that. Or maybe it's already started." Alejandra shot him a sharp look. "Miguel," he shrugged with a half-smile, but didn't seem as relaxed as he tried to appear. "I'm just saying," Daniel scoffed. "Stop saying nonsense." I looked at my phone again, my heart pounding. Maybe Daniel was right. Maybe it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But then, it vibrated again in my hand. Unknown number. I ignored the call. I didn't even say anything to the others. I just blocked the screen, put my phone in my bag, and pretended nothing had happened. That everything was fine. I had a physiology exam to do. I couldn't lose my mind now. But as soon as I sat in the classroom and saw the paper in front of me, I knew I couldn't concentrate. The questions were there, waiting for answers I would have known by heart at another time. Why does a boa's heart rate and ventilation decrease after hunting? What are the implications for its metabolism? I had no idea, because my mind wasn't here. I could only think about the call, about the word unknown glowing on my screen, about the possibility that, at this very moment, my phone was vibrating inside my bag. I tried to focus. I took a breath. I answered a few things with whatever my brain could piece together. But when time was up and they collected the papers, I knew my result would be disastrous. We left in silence. Alejandra walked beside me with a frown, but didn't say anything. Maybe she hadn't done well either. When we reached the cafeteria, Hunger hit all of us at the same time, a black hole in our stomachs. We had an hour before the lab, and if we didn't eat now, we wouldn't eat later. We ordered food, sat at our usual table, and for a moment the world felt normal again. Until I took out my phone and saw the 5 missed calls, all from the same unknown number. I didn't eat. While the others devoured their meals, I was completely absorbed in the screen of my phone. I needed to find the story. I searched by keywords: mysterious call, unknown number, phone creepypasta, cursed night call at 3:33 a.m. Click after click, I entered forums, horror story websites, blogs with strange fonts and dark backgrounds. I read story after story, but none matched exactly what Miguel had told us that day. Something told me that if I understood the story well, if I found its origin, we could do something to get away from it, to prevent it from becoming our reality. Everything around me became a distant murmur, background noise without importance. Until a hand appeared out of nowhere and snatched the phone from me. I blinked, surprised. Daniel was looking at me with a mix of pity and understanding. "Seriously," he said, holding the phone as if he had just caught me in the middle of a madness. I didn't respond. Daniel sighed, swiped his finger across the screen, and saw the page I was on. His eyes hardened for a moment before turning to Miguel. "You need to tell us exactly where you found that story." "I already told you, my cousin told me," Miguel replied. "Then message him and ask where he got it from," Daniel insisted. "We need to read the full version. She's going to go crazy if she doesn't know the whole thing. Look at her. She hasn't eaten a bite and it's her favorite food." Miguel frowned, but took out his phone and started typing. I took advantage of the pause to let out what had been gnawing at me inside. "I received more calls," I said quietly. Alejandra lifted her head sharply. Laura dropped her spoon. "What?" Alejandra asked. "During the exam," I murmured. "Several times." Daniel squinted. "Probably it was your mom again from her office." I shook my head. "No, she knew I had the exam at that time. She wouldn't call me then." Daniel didn't seem convinced. Maybe there was an emergency. His logic was overwhelming, but something in my stomach told me no. Still, if I wanted peace of mind, there was a way to confirm it. I took my phone from his hand and searched the contact list. "What are you doing?" Laura asked. "I'm going to call my mom, but to her cell, not the unknown number. If my mom really had forgot her phone at home, then she wouldn't answer. And that would mean that the calls from the unknown number had been made by her from her office. And that all of this had nothing to do with Miguel's creepypasta." I swallowed and pressed call. The ringtone rang once, then again, and then someone answered. "Mom?" I asked immediately. Silence. I frowned. The line didn't sound normal. It wasn't white noise nor interference, it was like someone was breathing very, very softly. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice coming out more tense than I intended. "Nothing. Why do you have my mom's phone?" I insisted. More breathing. Something creaked in the background. "Answer me." Then the voice changed. It was no longer the static whisper of a stranger. It was my voice, or something that sounded exactly like my voice. Tuesday 1:04 p.m. It wasn't said with aggression or drama. It was just spoken as if it were an absolute truth. A chill ran down my spine. What? What does that mean? But there was no answer, just the dry sound of the call ending. I was left with the phone stuck to my ear, paralyzed. "What happened?" Laura asked urgently. I didn't respond. With trembling fingers, I called my mom's number again. This time, the operator answered coldly. "The number you have dialed is turned off or out of coverage." No. My friends stared at me in complete silence. I could barely breathe. I decided to do the only thing I could. Call the unknown number that had been calling me during the exam. It rang twice. "Hello?" a woman's voice answered. It wasn't my mom. It was an unknown woman who let out a small laugh before speaking. "Oh, sorry. Your mom is on her lunch break. That's why she's not in the office. But if you want, I can leave her a message. Or I can tell her to call you when she gets back." The knot in my stomach tightened. "No, it's not necessary. Just tell her we'll see her at home." "Okay, I'll let her know." I hung up. My hands were trembling. I could feel the weight of all their stares on me. "Who was that?" Miguel asked. "Someone from my mom's office." "And what did she say?" I swallowed. "That my mom is on her lunch break." Nobody said anything, but I could see on their faces that they were all thinking the same thing. If my mom was at her office having lunch without her cell, then who had it? I don't understand what's happening, Alejandra whispered. Neither did I told them everything. That someone had answered my mom's phone, that she hadn't said anything until I demanded answers. That then, she spoke with my voice, that she gave me an exact date and time. That later I called my mom and her phone was off. This doesn't make sense, Miguel said. It can't be a coincidence, Laura whispered. No one had answers, not even Daniel. He, who always found the logical way out, was silent. Finally, it was him who spoke. The most logical explanation is that someone entered your house. His voice sounded tense, forced. Maybe a thief, since you said the voice was female. That would explain why someone answered your mom's phone. And my voice. Because that wasn't just a female voice, it was my own voice, Daniel. I asked in a whisper. Daniel didn't answer. And the day and time? I continued, feeling panic rise in my throat. Is it the exact moment when I'm going to die? Silence. Daniel couldn't give me an answer, and that terrified me more than anything else. Laura looked at all of us, still with the tension hanging in the air. It was clear she was trying to stay calm, even though her eyes reflected the same uncertainty we all felt. Listen, she finally said, we can't keep speculating here and letting ourselves be carried away by panic. We need proof, something concrete. And how are we supposed to do that? Miguel asked, crossing his arms. We'll go to your house, Laura said, turning to me. If it really was a thief, we'll know immediately. If the door is forced, if things are messed up, if something's missing, that would confirm that someone entered and that the call you received was simply from someone who found your mom's phone and answered it. And if we don't find anything, murmured Alejandra, without finishing the sentence. Laura sighed. If we don't find anything, we'll think of another explanation. But at least we'll rule one possibility out. I couldn't oppose it. Deep down, I needed to see it with my own eyes. Okay, I agreed. Let's go. No one complained. They all understood that, after what had happened, I couldn't go alone.